Greetings, fellow Watford fans. I'm Omar Moore, and welcome to the Orns 10-minute take on Watford 1, Manchester City 3 at the Vic. It was not the game that Watford had planned for. I mean, obviously, most of us as Watford fans thought that Watford were going to end up without any points at all, and that's exactly what happened. But it was not the plan to come out as flat and as lifeless as Watford did, particularly on the defensive end in this game. And that's how they started, did Watford. And that really was one of the major reasons why, by the time they looked around, they were down 2-0 at the half. And the problem is that Watford, who should have built upon a very good performance against Chelsea, did not use that performance and that motivation to spur them on in this game from the start against City. And that's the disappointing thing when you think about this game, because we know that City are world class. We know that City are going to give everything. And we know that the game plan is very simple for City: pass you into submission, pass the ball around you, keep the ball retention, everything. And they worked their game plan to perfection, City. That was a training ground win for City today, let's be honest. And Watford, I think, it really did not do themselves a lot of favors when they came out as flat and as tepid as they did. There was no intensity to this game for Watford from the start of it. And because of that, City were able to expose Watford so easily with plenty of spaces being left. City were running into all kinds of spaces that the Watford defense left. We defended very tepidly and with little confidence in that first half for much of the first half overall. And we played so defensively scared and looked so defensively fragile that it did not take long for City to pick us apart. Raheem Sterling, who scores often against Watford, made it 1-0 after just 4 minutes. In 4 minutes, I mean, that is inexcusable. Can't keep a clean sheet for 5 minutes in this particular Premier League game. And that's what's most frustrating. The game plan had to be to come out City, take some chances, press the ball. You're not going to press them for 95 minutes of any game. You can't do that. City are going to be able to find ways to expose you, but you had to let City know that you were in the building from the off in this game, and Watford didn't do that. They gave City too much respect, too much space, just like they did give Southampton and Liverpool space previously at the Vic, and the defensive intensity was not there for us. So we didn't get the balance right at all in this game, and the defense was the biggest reason why. No intensity at all in that first half, played very scared defensively, and that was why City were able to pick us apart. My whole thing is, if you're going to lose a game to City, lose it on your terms, not theirs. That may not make a whole lot of difference when you look at the table and see that we have now lost our 10th Premier League game of the season. We've lost more Premier League games than any other team this season, and we are not in the bottom three. So that is some kind of silver lining, I guess. And also, this horrid run of games is over. And at least we can now look forward to teams that are not going to be Liverpool, City, Man United, Chelsea, Arsenal. And we played reasonably well in a load of those games. Leicester. At least we don't have to think about those teams now for quite a few months. I think maybe Leicester will maybe play them in the next couple of months. But the fact of the matter is that Watford and now got through that horrible run. As far as this game is concerned, the problem was, again, the defensive intensity was not there. The lack of commitment to this game and the belief in the game was not there. When Sterling scored so early, knocked the stuffing out of Watford. And as a result, they controlled the game, did City. Although Watford did get back into the game around the 15 to 20-minute mark, they were a lot better. Had a free kick. They had a couple of chances, but they got caught out on the counter, and the same thing happened. The defensive spacing was not there. It was not good enough. We gave up too much space and too much real estate to City. And as a result, once again, we find ourselves 2-0 down, and Bernardo Silva scoring to make it two. And ruthless. You can't give City these kinds of opportunities because they are going to take them. And in fact, City should have been at least 3 or 4, maybe even 5 up by the half, but not for the brilliance of Daniel Backman. Yeah, and I do use that word brilliance because he was excellent today. And he kept City at bay for much of the time, and I don't think any of these goals were his fault. He was a commanding presence in the goal. He shouted and made himself be heard. He was much more assertive today. I really like that. It made some excellent saves from world class players. I think Daniel Backman gave you as good as he possibly could in this game. By far his best goalkeeping display this season for Watford. But as for the team overall, apart from the defensive side of things, things did not really liven up for this Watford side until Claudio Ranieri made the very important substitutions in the second half. He brought on Cucho and Kuchka, and it was those two players that lit a spark under this Watford side as they went forward a lot more. One of the things I called for in the U1's Friday focus was to sting the palms of the goalkeeper of the opposition and do so quite a bit, which is what Watford had to do, I think, to let City know that we were in the building, that we were going to be up for this game. And when those substitutions were made in the second half, I really did think it was a good move. It took about 5 to 10 minutes for those substitutions to really take hold. And as a result, you saw a different Watford side from the 70th minute on. Cucho Hernandez looked very, very lively indeed. And Kuchka took a couple of shots, one that stung the palms of Edison. The other one was a shot to let that City back line know that you are in the building. And then Cucho Hernandez, his tireless running down the left flank and then on the right side to get his goal in this game to make things interesting. It was already 3-0 by that point, as Bernardo Silva had far too much space to score his second goal. He cut on the inside, and there was no Watford defender to even try to close down that space. And as a result, he had all the time in the world. The coolly angled finish into the top um, left-hand corner of the net to give City the 3-0 lead. But when Cucho scored his goal, you saw how dynamic he was and how he never gave up on the ball. When he shot the ball, it rebounded off of Edison, I think it was, straight back, and he ran into the space to pounce on the loose ball. And that's what you've got to do. You've got to keep going. So they kept that going, that Ranieri principle of never giving up on things, never giving up on the game, never giving up on the ball. And as a result, Cucho came in with the goal to get his, I think it's his second Premier League goal for Watford this season, his first since opening day against Aston Villa. It was 3-1. And so Watford had a little bit of a lifeline, but they did not make any use of it, although they did keep going forward in true Ranieri fashion. Had a couple of chances. Josh King had a chance that wow, I don't know how Josh King did not score, but he managed to make a miss out of that one, and there were a couple of other chances, but really in the end, not much else except for Daniel Backman. I think other than Daniel Backman, I think there were some other players who did put in a shift today. Musa Sissoko, I think, again, is showing you why he's the most consistent player in Watford's lineup. He is so important to this side. Manuel Dennis had a good first half. Second half, not quite as good, but he did track back for you. He gives you everything, does Dennis. I think perhaps he's maybe a little bit tired, perhaps. Um, but look, he gave you as much as he could today. Josh King did not have the game that I think he's had over the last few. Um, but again, it's just one of those things. City are a world-class team. We know that. Cathcart today, I thought, was very good. Defensive leadership, I liked what he was bringing to the table. Very active defensively. Cathcart was active throughout the 95 minutes. He just gave you everything and made some good interventions, good decision making. Looked like the only one in that back line who had an idea. Danny Rose, to me, not a good performance by him. After I think a pretty decent outing against Chelsea, he did not do himself any favors today, Danny Rose, and he may well have been injured. I'm not sure. He got subbed off, but not a good performance from him. Jeremy Ngaki, who took his place, I thought was adequate. Thought he was decent today, but for me, the players that I would laud praise on, despite the defeat, Daniel Backman, obviously in goal, was the player of the game for Watford. Cucho Hernandez was a close second to him because he brought that life and energy. He had a little devil in him. You know, that's the kind of thing that you want when you're playing these games. You've got to have players that are going to take chances. And Cucho took chances and he got himself his goal. And Kuchka had a chance or two as well. And those are the kinds of players that bring spirit into a side. Because I think Watford at that point, when we got into the second half, 55, 65 minutes in, we needed a bit of spirit and a little bit of animation to us. And we started to play a lot better in that second half. Defensively, we were a little bit tidier, even though we give up some spaces again. But you can see the Watford game coming into fruition. But it was a case of too little, too late. Had Watford started that way in the first half, we might have had a closer game. I'm not saying Watford would have taken all 3 points, but I am saying Watford would have given City something to think about. And as a result, we have the final score of Watford 1, City 3. It's a deserved win for City. It was a training ground game for them. You knew what they were going to do, and they came in here and did it. But my lament is that Watford did not bring their game at the very beginning of this game, and they allowed City to play their game and win their way. And I would have rather Watford have played the game today and play it their way and lose 3-1 than see City come in from the off and then allow City to do everything they did and lose the game City's way, which is exactly what happened in this game. We lost the game City's way. We did not lose it our way, because even though we played so well against Chelsea, we lost the game our way against Chelsea. That was the difference. We went into that game with our authority, our confidence, our tempo, our attitude. We brought our game onto Chelsea. We played the game our way. Today, we played the game City's way. That's the difference in the two games. And of course, we conceded an extra goal. So that's really the difference in these two games here. Both losses, but we played one game our way with our approach, and we played the other game with the opposition team's approach. And that should not be. That should not be. And unfortunately for us, we didn't have it from the start of the game. We had it from the time Ranieri started to made the substitutions. With the two substitutions he made, took off Lauza, who did not have a good game. He took off, I forgot who else he took off. Um, but the point is that it may have been Cleverly, not 100% sure. And he took off those two players, whomever he took off, and brought on Kuchka and Kucho. And as a result, you saw the difference in the way Watford played. And, just unfortunate that Watford did not come out with the intensity at the beginning of the game. Showed City too much respect. And so that's really your game in the nutshell there, as Watford falls to defeat at the Vic by a score of 3-1. City deserved winners. I think anybody can agree to that. They played the football they wanted to play. They played the way that has brought them Champions League appearances and finals and Premier League success, of course. So not a surprise there, but I'm just disappointed about the fact that we did not press this game from the start. I get it. You cannot press for 95 minutes, but you've got to let City know you're in the building, and you've got to do your best to disrupt them. You've got to take it in waves, spend a few minutes trying to disrupt them, spend a few minutes taking those chances, and have that defensive confidence. But because Watford did not try to disrupt City at all, really, in that first half, as a result, you got what you got here. And there was too much of a mountain to climb in this game. Had we got the first goal in the second half of this game, it would have been game on. But because we were already 3-0 down by the time we started to do anything in the game, it was too little too late. Claudio Ranieri, though, those substitutions, very important. Daniel Bachmann, very important performance from him. I thought he was very good. And again, Craig Cathcart and also Musa Sissoko were very good. I thought very lively. I think Femenia was not bad either. I think Kiko Femenia had a decent game. He did make a couple of mistakes that put us on our back foot a bit in this one, but I think he did have a decent game. And as far as I'm concerned, that's really the tale of the tape today. City deserved winners. Watford, a lesson learned, surely, I hope, from this one. You've got to keep your levels up and your intensity up from the start. Our balance was not right today. And if you want to lose a game like this against City, well, then lose it your way, not theirs. And that's really all for this TMT, the Orns 10-minute take on Watford 1, Manchester City 3.